Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, different parts of the world. Welcome to another fantastic, exciting webinar, informative, very useful. I think this is such a unique thing that has been done by GEDC over the years. So this is a webinar about the GEDC Industry Forum. GEDC stands for the Global Engineering Deans Council, and it has been created by GEDC and Petrus and a host of university and industry experts. And they are all here. Thank you all for taking the time from different parts of the world to join us and share the exciting knowledge, experience that we have gained over the years with the GEDC Forum. It's going to be hosted by Kristen Williams, who's the CEO of Petrus and co-chair of the GEDC Industry Forum, together with a number of past and future participants. I will let her explain some of the details of what she will get into. But prior to that, I would like to give a chance to my good friend and colleague, Hans Hoyer from GEDC IFES. So come on in, Hans.
Thank you so much. Good to hear your voice and to see so many friends and colleagues joining us. I just want to take a minute on behalf of the leadership of the GEDC, and we have a key leader with us, Professor Money, who's on our executive committee, but also on behalf of our current chair of the GEDC, Professor Sunil, and incoming chair, Professor Sushma, just to express the thanks and appreciation of the partnership that we over the last few years have built with Kirsten Williamson and her team and Petrus Communication. I just want you to know this relationship professionally, obviously, has had a meaningful impact on our community globally, and also the personal relationships that we have built. I just want you to know that we deeply, deeply value that, and we're looking forward to have another creative, successful event with our dear friends who are not here today. They'll be on our other webinar coming from Sashtec in China, with which I've been working very closely. And its dean there, a wonderful, inspiring leader, is working closely with Kirsten, her team, and with us for the event in January. We hope to see all of you who are here physically, hopefully, and certainly online in January. So just with that, dear Kirsten, thank you very much for being and facilitating and leading this very important strategic conversation today. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you so much. I really appreciate those words, and I would echo that. I'm also grateful, and the team, for the experience that we have working with you, and the really inspiring, valuable community that you have built over more than 10 years now amongst deans and industry partners across the world. And it's our privilege, actually, to be able to work with you and with fantastic host Zhenge at Sustec to organize another industry forum. We are really looking forward to it. And I'm so delighted to see so many of you with us today. It's just fantastic to see the interest and the engagement. In fact, we've got a fantastic event coming up in China in January. And I know that many of you have got questions about what we're going to cover, how you can get involved, and what you can take from this experience. And that's exactly what we'd like to cover today. I'm very grateful to Krishna and his team for organizing, and for our speakers, who you will meet very, very soon. So what we're going to talk about, the industry forum and how it got started, how people have been involved and why, and what they've taken away with them for their companies, for their institutions, for themselves. And then we'll move on to what's coming next and hear about an expert in innovation and manufacturing, and why Shenzhen is such an exciting place to be today. And then we'll wrap up with some practicalities and questions. I'm sure many of you have traveled to Shenzhen, to China before, some of you perhaps not, and are thinking about how to organize yourselves. And it's a great opportunity to be able to do that. For those who I don't know, I'm Kirsten Williamson, the founder, the CEO of Petrus, and as Krishna said, the co-chair of the Industry Forum, together with Sunil and with Zhenge, working in a great tri partnership to bring this event to you. So let's take a look at what is the Industry Forum. I think the best way that I can do that is sharing some comments about the whole event since it got started, that we put together right at the very beginning with some of the great leaders who were involved in the design and the development and the delivery of that very first event in 2017. So Dominic, over to you.
The idea was to bring together the leaders of academic institutions related to engineering from around the world with the leaders of industry from around the world. And to my knowledge, that's never been done. The whole intent of the forum is to develop some really excellent action ideas for the future that we can collectively as a community, both an academic community and a corporate community, work on to really close the gap between the expectations of industry and the intentions of universities and align what it is we do together.
We are more and more in a globally interconnected world, and our products need to adapt to this new trends, and as a consequence we see engineering evolving more and more.
For me, the highlight of the GEDC Industry Forum is making connections. It's actually all about making connections, and connections between universities all over the world, but also making the connection to industry.
When you bring together a group of people of the quality of these deans, together with people who are very passionate from the industry, you can make things happen. The ideas that have emerged this week have been absolutely amazing.
At the GEDC Industry Forum, we put together 8 working groups, and they were focusing on 8 themes that we developed that are relevant to the kind of issues that employers are facing and that deans are facing when they're developing the programs for future engineers.
For us in the GEDC, it's very, very important that we build collaborations and partnerships. It is very important for us so that we really understand better what are the needs of the industry so that we can maintain our education current and relevant.
If one were to reflect upon this meeting 10 or 20 years from now, one would see this as a momentous and pivotal point that began the transformation of engineering education to align the interests of industry and academia and bring a new awareness to engineering to solve the grand challenges of the future.
Great, thank you very much. And if anybody wants to check that out again, it's on the Industry Forum website. Wonderful to see many friendly faces from the past, and really the inspiration for the event that came from working with the then chair of the GEDC, John Bainan, who was in Australia, and Peter Kilpatrick, who is still a leading institution in the US, and talking about how often at engineering education conferences, industry representatives, in particular coming from the innovation and the employability fields, don't tend to stay as involved because a lot of the topics are really looking at what academic institutions are doing in their day-to-day business. And so we came up with the idea that if we could organize a shorter and more interactive event, this could be more appealing for industry participants, rather than listening to deans talking about what they're planning to do, actually talking together, a real shared experience where the experience and the knowledge of everybody in the room comes together, a fully plenary session, not breaking off into different tracks and talking separately, but everybody listening and hearing what each other is saying in order to be able to do something with that and go on and meet everybody who's there, build trust relationships, and come up with some ideas that will actually make a difference. And that is exactly what we're aiming to do in China. Actually, I think now when I hear Ishwa, who spoke there at the end about a pivotal moment, I think we'd all agree that we're at a pivotal moment today, with artificial intelligence bringing many, many changes and a lot of reflection needed about how that's managed, but also the world not as peaceful and interculturally working together as we think it should be. There's a real, an urgent need, I would say, that we do come together and think about how, as educators and as employers and innovators, we can address some of these things together. I hope you also saw that we all had a lot of fun. I mean, we really did. And there was something for me that was quite inspiring to see how willing the deans who joined and the industry representatives were to roll up their sleeves, roll up your sleeves, actually, because several of you were there, and work together to come up with new ideas, share things that were working, and make something that was really positive and that could make a difference. So what happened next? We saw that the first event was successful. We continued with a very, very similar format, each time around 100 active participants, so that we could keep everything in the same room, everybody meeting each other, a real sense of trust. We took, with the mission and the values of the GEDC being a fully international organization, tried to travel the world. There was this small thing called COVID, which you all be aware of, which interrupted us. But we did also hold a couple of online events. So we worked with McMaster in Canada and with TU Dresden in Europe. We held a second event in Fontainebleau and also in Bucharest with a more regional and local focus. And then last year, we're at the WEEF in South Africa, where we had just a one-day design workshop. And we're really excited to expand that back into a full 2.5, 3-day event in China. People from all over the world, over 400 participants. And I would just say that whereas at the beginning, we started off with a kind of invitation-only approach for deans specifically, we have seen over the years that what actually works very well is when anybody in a leadership role in an institution or in a company joins, somebody who wants to change things, do things differently, or has really good experience to share. So don't be stressing if you think, oh, so-and-so should come to this, but they are not a dean. Can I invite them? The answer is yes, as long as they bring a contribution and are ready to step up and interact and make the most of the design workshop that this event is. And we've had participants literally, as it says, from 40 countries, 6 continents, and from a really great range of influential and hardworking institutions. In fact, the slide was just there. Maybe we'll get it back. Here are some examples. Universities, industry representatives, really trying to involve industry who are working with universities to deliver education. And Kwanzaa is a great example of that. We're going to hear from Josie very soon, but also industry who are working to hire graduate engineers and technologists in the future and to develop innovation programs with them. And universities, of course, we're very proud to talk about the leading universities in the world when it comes to reputation and rankings, but I am also personally very proud and committed to making sure that every university who is committed to great education and helping students develop their potential gets the chance to come and join the event. And we offer a number of invitations to universities who've got that profile. So please do try and get involved. And of course, the stakeholders, and Ravani is with us today from UNESCO. It's really important that those who are creating policy and influencing at a governmental level as well and are working hard on the ground are also part of the conversation. And you can see a couple of comments here from Jenna, the most recent past president of the ASEE, who's been a great participant and leader in the event, and Andrew, who is in the film from Total. So that's the industry forum in a nutshell. And you can see that there's a lot of thought, a lot of design has gone into it. And we call it a design workshop because that's exactly what it is. One of the questions I often get asked is what happens next? Because we develop these ideas and the aim of the aim of the event is to inspire and enable connections. We heard about it. TU Delft Dean Henry Verrisch talked about it very well in the video. Each person takes what's of most value for them. It could be a new idea, could be building on an idea that exists, solving a problem, finding a connection. But I thought, okay, that's my view. Let's hear from some people who've been involved in the past. So maybe what we can do is bring on board a panel of past and future participants. I'm really delighted to say that. We have Josie, who's Director of Marketing at Kwanzaa, Ravani, Education Program Specialist at UNESCO, Manivanan, many of you will know him as part of the leadership of the GEDC and Director at the Vineyard Missions Research Foundation, and Wynand, Dean at the University of Pretoria. In fact, Wynand joined the Industry Forum on his first day in his role of Dean at Pretoria. So I cannot wait to hear from him about what impact that made during the year that followed. So I guess that all of you have got your mics on and you're unmuted and you're able to answer our questions. So let's dive straight in. Josie, Kwanzaa have been a fantastic partner, I know, to the GEDC and also to the Industry Forum. Since we started in 2017, it was Paul Gilbert, of course, who came and joined the event then. Why do you think it was of interest at that time for Paul to get involved? And what did he tell you about the event?
Thanks, Kirsten, for having me today. What's Paul had discussed, and as a leader of a business that supports the academic community who travels all around the world attending events, many events, what he always came back from this event really feeling invigorated because of the collaboration between the senior administrators, between the deans and industry members like us, who again spend our day-to-day job supporting this community. So what he always felt, and that I've seen as somebody who coordinates and supports event development all around the world, was the size and format of this workshop really facilitated the creation of relationships. The dialogue, the teamwork, the exchange of information was really something that is not, let's say, omnidirectional, right? You're not just hearing from a selection of voices, you're really collaborating and discussing and making progress to those shared goals. And that really helps, again, create those bonds, form those relationships, as many in those videos had said. And it was nice to actually see Paul and Ishwar back in 2017 in Fontainebleau. And really that relationship with Dr. Puri, who was the dean at McMaster at the time, ultimately grew into a strategic partnership where Kwanzaa played a critical role supporting McMaster as they achieved, or as they were looking to achieve, their ambitious goal of redefining their first year experience through that pivot program. So I know that Paul really sees that relationship as foundational for creating some pretty amazing things happening at McMaster that we got to be a part of because of the relationship that he formed at the event that first year in 2017.
That's wonderful to hear, Josie. Thank you. And in fact, yes, you remind us very well of them having such, doing a crazy presentation together and having such an, in fact, Paul, I think, started the competition as well of who did the best presentation, which has continued really. But the relationship that was built, and you talked about the influence that had. And in fact, the McMaster, that program was featured in one of the programs written by Ruth Graham recently, working on a collective project with MIT and a number of other universities to highlight innovations in engineering education. And that program that you were really hands-on involved in then with Ishwar was featured as one of those pioneering projects that she thought stood out across the world. So that is pretty significant. And I really appreciate you bringing that. I'm going to come back to you in a minute because I know that you actually joined yourself after a few years. But let's go to Ravani. And Ravani, you also have been involved literally since the start. Now, we've worked together now. I thought about this earlier. since I think 2009 or 2010. Really a fantastic contribution that you're making to developing engineering education, bringing in more women, getting more countries involved in some of the innovations that are happening. But maybe what I can ask you is, how would you describe the Industry Forum? I mean, what would you say about it? Because it's not a typical conference.
Thanks, Kirsten. Yes, so I mean, for me, I think the Industry Forum for UNESCO as well, working, as you said, with policy and high level in governments, we actually got on the ground. We got to see industry and, deans work together in the same room. But it makes them think outside the box. It made all of us who were participating, I think from the very beginning, it was structured in a way that you think about problems affecting the industry as well as education, but bringing all partners together to solve them. And I think for us, this was exciting. It was great. There were problems there that it also needed creativity. And when we look at engineering now, design thinking and going into the future, it's all about creativity as well. So I think that, it's evolved to be bigger, but also more exciting every year that I've participated, in terms of also, networking, bringing new partners into UNESCO's family, and also working with new universities around the world. So I really appreciated that part of the Industry Forum, and the excitingness and the changing all the time.
That was brilliant. That's great to hear. And indeed, in fact, because everybody brings something that's personal to them and their experience. So in fact, what we get from the design workshops, even if we use a similar format, the outputs are quite different. We really learn a lot. I think at the first event, you remember we calculated that we had over 2,000 years of experience in the room. And that's why, in fact, we don't have a lot of speakers. There are some panels, some keynotes, of course, to give us some insight and to bring some inspiration, but it's our shared experience actually that then goes into developing the ideas. I'm gonna come to Wine and come back to that question that you joined us on your first day as Dean at the University of Pretoria at that one-day design workshop. So a snapshot actually of how the whole event works, but we did have a lot of creative fun together. What happened next? Was there something there that you could use?
Thanks, Kirsten. Yes, for sure. I think even though it was day one, learn a lot, pick up a lot of stuff, meet a lot of people, the whole concept of having this networking discussion, meeting actually a circle of potential collaborators that is not really visible in any other forum. That's the one thing that I really picked up, because as you roll into your dean's position, the local colleagues are relatively easy to pick up. Local industry is relatively easy to pick up. But what I really picked up from the meeting in Cape Town, as well as sort of looking at the programs coming up, is that this enables the international networking to happen much quicker and easier. For context, I'm actually sitting at a technical conference this week, where you grow up with those colleagues, you know them over years and so on. So you actually have got this whole international network. But the moment you roll into a dean's position, it's suddenly a new network. And it's not necessarily your technical colleagues and so on. It's people from in an engineering dean's role from all of the disciplines. So the majority of them you have not previously met. So it's not as easy as in your technical roles to just make contacts. While what I experienced from Cape Town and expect from the other ones is that it opens those doors that suddenly people outside your normal technical circle of colleagues and friends and collaborators, they become accessible. And I think that's in any role such as this, having people accessible to have these discussions, do the new developments and stuff, but also just having a bit of a support sometimes extremely important.
That's great. That's great to hear. Thank you. And in fact, yes, one of the things that I'm excited about going back to the format where we have several days is that we'll have a bit more of that time for that personal interaction as well, those connections, and talking about some of the topics that maybe are not on the table as formal discussion points, but you know that everybody's dealing with them and that we need to discuss them as well. So having lunches together, dinners together, people staying more or less at the same hotels. We've got 3 key hotels so people can travel to and fro together, and just building up a kind of collegiate feel there. So it's a bit more like a strategic retreat, and those discussions can take place. And Wynand, I'm delighted that you're coming to join us in China as well. Really looking forward to that. And maybe what I could do is also turn now to Manny, who's also coming to join us in China. So delighted that you've registered, Manny. That's fantastic. I mean, from your perspective, maybe coming from a GEDC perspective, why do you think this is an important event? What do you hope to get from it, and what would you like to see your colleagues get from it?
Yeah, thank you, Kristen, for the opportunity. In fact, I'll wish to share that the GEDC Industry Forum is with respect to 4 C's. The first C is called the communication. Is the first one where we got a lot of interaction among the peer, not only with respect to the faculty and also the industries. The second one is where we come with a lot of ideas, which leads to the so-called next C is nothing but the creativity, what is expected today by the faculty as well as the students. And the next one is we talk about the more of critical thinking and also the collaborations. So these forces, what I can say with respect to the industry forum. And also with this, I got a lot of insights about the team building, especially because for information last year in our university, we got some collaboration between some of the faculty and some nearby industries. We come with the kind of interaction for a 2-day, and where we solved too many problems. In fact, we got 2 patents with respect to this particular collaboration. So this kind of forum will give a kind of interaction, which gives a kind of a networking, and also we can get a lot of problem solving. Those things is essential for us. Thank you.
That's remarkable. So building up those relationships and then being able to do something concrete with them, and bringing that creativity back on campus as well. I mean, you're obviously very, very involved in what's at the forefront of industry minds in the role that you play at the foundation. What topics do you think are going to be hot topics for the coming forum? I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, Manny, but I'm keen to hear what your industry partners are talking about to you as being challenges or something that they'd like to address.
No, I wish to know what is especially see today the emerging technologies in artificial intelligence, as well as see today a lot of things happening in industrial IoT also, especially industrial Internet of Things, a lot of things happening on robotics and automation areas, and also the ML and for information today without artificial intelligence and machine learning, that especially on medical education, because today with the medical many technologies are going to come. So in what way the technology is going to interface the medical education, that is also another area where you can look into that, because today a lot of things happening. In fact, for information, India during the COVID time, the AI that technology used very well with respect to various data sets, where we come with a lot of inferences on the COVID situation also in India. So I think we can come with the kind of interface between medical and engineering technology, in what way we can able to work and what way we can able to give some sort of insights with respect to both industry and academia. That gives a kind of validation for our future conference during at SUSTEC.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And indeed, we're going to have a panel speaking specifically about how artificial intelligence, for example, is being used to change things in different industries, one of which I think must be the medical industry, so that we can hear. And sometimes it's an industry that students don't think of immediately when they're in engineering and technology, and something that we need to address. Wynand, I know that you need to jump off, so I'm going to come back to you in a second, Josie, but maybe I can ask you just if there's something that you'd like to add before you leave to Manny's answer. You know, what for you, either from a tech point of view or from a leadership point of view, what kind of topics would you like to be discussing in China?
I think, and thank you for the opportunity, I appreciate. I think the one thing that we are grappling more and more with is sort of, let's call it broadly, the future of education. And what I really mean with that is during COVID, with online lecturing and so on, a lot of experience was built up. And now, obviously, you get back to in person, but the education industry is changing significantly. And what we are grappling with is the basic question, will we as a engineering faculty, as a university, in 10 or 15 years still have a job? I mean, if you look at micro-credentials and things like that, and I simplify it a lot if I state it like this, but you can pretty much learn everything that you learn in a normal engineering curriculum online these days. And yes, you drop the mentoring, and I mean, that's a much longer discussion that I think we can have in China, but you can pick up all the information, which you could not do 10 or 15 years ago. And therefore, I would really be interested in the discussion around, do we think, and why do we think, universities should still be relevant in 15 years' time in engineering education? You can do it online, you can do it immersively, you can pick up what you need. And so, wow, what will we be doing?
That really is a pivotal discussion and a very important one. I'm glad that we've got several days, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to be a theme throughout. It's certainly something that I'd expect some of our guest speakers, but also the deans and the industry together. And I hear a lot from industry as well about their need for education, upskilling and reskilling, for which, you know, sometimes the micro credentials that you mentioned are perhaps the solution, but maybe we can reinvent what some people call university as a service, but real lifelong learning. What might that look like with universities at the heart of it? I mean, that's something that I'd love to tackle in a lot of depth. So thank you both for those thoughts. Let me come back to you now, Josie, and let's make that parallel with you and Wynan joining us for the first time last year. Why did you decide to join in person? And tell me about something that you took away with you that made a difference in your day-to-day work.
I was actually thinking about it. I did attend the virtual event during the pandemic. So while that was a great event, certainly it couldn't compare to the magic of what happened in Cape Town last year when we were all in person. Certainly many of us had that break from travel for a while, and to reconnect. I think what was special about that event was the energy and motivation and really positive intention that everybody came to that room with, that table, really looking to collaborate, as many men said, to exchange ideas and to really talk and make progress on universal challenges that many of us in this community face. And certainly there's no shortage of topics that are relevant and pressing and on the minds of senior faculty around the world and industry like us. So it was just great to be having that collaborative, productive discussion and conversation. But really, to me, what makes us stand out is the goal of the tangible outcomes at the end. Again, many of these conferences or sessions end up being discussions or information sharing, but it doesn't have that same lens of, is there something we can leave today here with that we can apply to our business, that we can apply to our school, that we can implement on campus into our programs? And to me, that's what makes an event like this forum so special, is that tangible outcome piece. You really do feel fulfilled as a day's work. Not only did you build great relationships, you've learned, because there was such a diversity of thought of people at that table that you were working with, whether it's through massive organizations like Boeing and Airbus, or medium-sized businesses like ours at Quanzer, and again the variety of academic institutions around the world that are being represented there by the deans. I think that's really what was motivating for me to participate. And what I took out of this event was really that invigoration that happens when you feel like, I've learned a lot through that process, and we have something to show for our effort that will have residual positive impact on our day-to-day lives, whether through industry or in the academic setting.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And thank you, Josie, for that word, the magic, because I feel very confident that with the Zhenga, who is a fantastic leader and creative, warm person, I know that you know him personally as well, we definitely are hoping to make some magic happen in Shenzhen. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. You've made a perfect bridge to me to the next session, but I did want to come back to Ravani first as well, because this question about the topics that you think are important. Ravani, I'd love to hear from you, because you have quite a different perspective. What Wynan put a great big topic out there. What is the future of education? Look, from your point of view and the work that you're doing in Africa in particular, what would you like to see happen at the Industry Forum? What might be a positive outcome for you?
Thanks, Kirsten. So actually, something that Vainant brought up is exactly what we're thinking about. We're always talking now about the futures of education and where's it going. And I think universities will always be needed. We need education in every form, and especially for engineering, the fact that technology now needs to be integrated into curricular development, which is still not happening. We're working with different curricular development for universities and in engineering education, but to see it in different parts of the world as well and how it turns out, we need to evolve. And I think engineering needs to be taught in a different way. And I think this is how campuses need to evolve and classrooms need to evolve as well. And a big part of it is also we are trying to attract, more women into engineering, 50%, which we'd like to get. And if we're going to get there, we also need to show, the other parts of engineering in terms of its social responsibility, what we do to change the world, how we interact with the environment, how we protect the environment, and what we do around us. And engineering encompasses everything. It's basically everything that we do and everything that we talk about, but the way that we really sell it, in terms of engineering education, but also in terms of what we got out there. So I think that it's already on the agenda of engineering for the future in Shenzhen. And I think it's going to be really exciting because, there's so many different views about this, and technology is changing everything. And AI, again, is one of your huge topics. And as UNESCO, we're also working on the ethics of AI, for industry, for education, and in every part. So this brings in everything that we are looking for discussed in one place at the for Industry Forum, which will be early next year.
You absolutely hit on it there, Ravani, as well, isn't it? Because it's having these conversations together, because you can't talk about AI and the technology and how it's going to be used without also having the ethics discussion, and with also having the upskilling and reskilling and lifelong learning, all of these things, and bringing in, the gender perspective and how women are going to influence how AI is taught and used in the university and in the workplace. It's so important to have that together. So yeah, you're right. We need to make sure that we've got enough of the right people around the table. And I'm thrilled that there's actually a UNESCO Center for Innovation in Higher Education right there on campus at Shenzhen. And so we can make the most of their insights too. Thank you. Thank you. We could continue this discussion. I have to say we will continue it, because on November the 22nd, we are going to have a second webinar where we will explore the concrete themes, the panels, the speakers, and the design workshop challenges that we are going to be addressing. And so join us again then, because we will go more into how we're going to cover these very big subjects. For right now, I'm going to shift our focus a little bit to look at what's happening next. So thank you very much to all our speakers, to Wynan, who had to drop off. He had let us know about that, to Manny, to Josie and Ravani. Thank you, and stick around because we might have some questions for you at the end. Josie, you made a great point about, the resources, the inspiration and resources. And maybe I can just wrap up here by showing one slide that I know Dom will be putting back on the slide. Just for those of you who were not at previous Industry Forum, before we move on to talk about Shenzhen, just please remember that there is a whole wealth of resources since 2017. It's all on the Industry Forum website. There are the concept papers that helped us decide on what topics we would address, the report out from the event with a description, some sketches, the podcasts, the idea books, which are actually the books that bring together the design group ideas. So, for example, if you're sitting in your company thinking, how are we going to deal with micro-credentials? Well, take a look at the idea book and see what the team came up with. And if you're thinking in your university, we need to embed sustainability and I need some new ideas to do that. Well, in the idea book from the last two Industry Forum, there's a whole working group. You had 4 or 5 deans, 3 or 4 industry representatives, some policymakers all around a table discussing exactly that, and you can go in there and grab it. So please make the most of that. There are also some great webinars. We had Airbus and IBM talking with University of Southern California on why university industry relationships fail, how can we make them better. We had Michael Fung from the Technology Institute of Monterey talking about micro-credentials. I mean, those webinars are all available available. So dive in there, make the most of it. You can see some of the topics, and we'll be adding to that as we prepare for and as we complete the event in China. So let's move on to China and think about what we're going to be doing at SUSTIC. So you can see Zhenge here, and the announcement that he made when we agreed together that we would design the next industry forum here, SUSTIC College of Engineering. It's a fantastic campus. In fact, I'm going to be there, I'm fortunate, in early November, because the Times Higher Education are holding an Innovation and Impact Summit there, which I'll be attending. And that's a great leaping point to finalize the preparations for the industry forum as well. We have leaders from all over the world who are attending that event, and we'll be building on some of those topics as well. So we'll cover that in the next webinar on the 22nd of November. So excited to go back there, and then to be ready to host everybody there in January, a couple of months later. But why Shenzhen? Why China at this point? What I'd like to do is bring in now a guest speaker who's new to this community, and I hope will be sticking around with us because he brings a great deal of reflection and some valuable experience. And so if we can just progress, I would like to now introduce George Ethan. Thank you. George, I can see that you're unmuted, and that's great because I have some important questions for you. But maybe first of all, to introduce yourself to this group, George, could you tell us a little bit about your experience at this intersection of innovation and manufacturing? Over to you.
Okay, but before I get there, I saw your industry forum was at CEDEP. That's where I lived for almost 20 years. And met Kristen there. So I have many hats, but currently I'm looking after something called the Blue Ocean Awards, which we're taking all over the world. And I work with InnoMantra, which is an innovation consultancy. But I have taught in Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing, and Kunming. So I've been to China for a while, till about 2015. So I'm excited that you're going to, and I discovered Shenzhen. I used to know of Shenzhen as a place where you bought cheap furniture. They've really gone up the valley curve, and they are the most innovative hub currently in the world. China has overtaken even the United States in patents. This is something we work a lot with patents. People don't actually look at patent publications as much as they should. China, okay, some of their patents are utility patents, but they produce more patents than anyone in the world at the moment. And Shenzhen has moved from a fishing village to a high-tech city, and they're working on quantum computing and quantum innovation. So I think Shenzhen will be a great place to go to, because it's happening. And Shenzhen has moved from low-end manufacturing to high-end manufacturing and high-tech. So you will, I hope, while you're in Shenzhen, visit some of those companies, because that's how you learn, in conversations in the field, not always in a forum where you're discussing, which is important, but you need to go out into the field. And I think Kristen will be able to organize that. Sorry, if I start speaking, I don't stop.
I'm going to jump in, but I've got a couple more questions for you, George. I mean, yes, we certainly will. And it's the value of having an extended period, the time to interact and network with each other, some time, of course, to step back and do a bit of work if people need to be online, but also the time to get out to visit. So we'll have a number of companies from Shenzhen who'll be joining us, but we're also, and we need to finalize the announcement about this, but it is really an exciting thing, is that we will have an innovation networking event with some of the startups and some of the innovation catalysts who are based in Shenzhen, that are part of that ecosystem that have enabled, this kind of impressive growth and change of perspective that George has been talking about. So really a fantastic opportunity to make more industry contacts, maybe find some of your alumni there as well, because there is a very big international population also working in Shenzhen. So very, very exciting. George, you touched on something that I think is interesting, which is the idea that Shenzhen has transformed its focus in terms of a manufacturing hub into an innovation and high value manufacturing hub. I mean, what do you think we might be looking for to learn from that when we are on site, and who might be the different actors of that ecosystem? How does that come about?
Well, you know, if we compare Shenzhen to Silicon Valley, which is seen as the top innovation, they've been left behind. And Silicon Valley doesn't manufacture. And this idea of moving from manufacturing, from low-end manufacturing to high-end manufacturing, to actually creating IP is very, very impressive. And the fact that Shenzhen with Hong Kong and Macau actually have some sort of quantum computing center, and they're working on it. I don't know very many places in the world currently working specifically on quantum. And that's going to change everything. We're talking about AI, but AI with quantum computing is going to totally change what happens. And I don't think people are actually keeping in touch because, you know, there's this, till very recently, China can't innovate, they can only copy. That is not true anymore.
So this is something that, and this is a very interesting opportunity for us then to go and actually observe and see what's happening in China and in Shenzhen, how they have done that, and also SOSTEC's role in that. I know that Sheng is really keen to share that with us. From your experience, why do you think it's so important to actually go and see, different from looking online, reading an article, having a meeting?
For INSEAD, we organized learning journeys to Shanghai. And we used to take the team to visit 3 or 4 companies. And there's a lot of information that comes in those interactions when you're on site that doesn't happen when you are in a structured meeting. Because, you know, people have agendas, people have PowerPoints, and there isn't enough free exchange. And I think the scale of businesses in Shenzhen, I think, will surprise everybody. I mean, these are huge operations, and they've been looking at international. I remember a long time ago, I visited ZT in Shanghai. They were looking at Africa very strategically in the cell phone market long before Africa was a thing. And they, in many ways, are at the cutting edge, and they work with their diaspora who have, you know, they have antennas all over the place. So, yeah. You can't avoid it. So you better be part of it.
Got to be part of it. You've got to go and see it. We've got to go and have that opportunity to meet and interact, and that is that's built into the program. So that's great. That gives us some ideas. And I know that Krishna, at the start, you were saying that you're thinking also of hosting an industry forum or something of that kind, and that really important aspect to actually be able to go and see. When we were actually in Fontainebleau at the very first industry forum, we did exactly that. We had site visits out to industry labs and also cultural things around Fontainebleau. We will be doing exactly that around Shenzhen. So thank you so much, George. And you said, you know, while we go, I really hope it is we. I'm going to be very excited to invite you and Inamantra to be with us in Shenzhen. And if you're interested, any of the audience, in some of the patent discussion that George mentioned, we'll share some slides afterwards that has got a bit more detail on some of the research that he's been looking at as to how China have kind of leapt ahead in that area. So maybe we should just wrap up now on our plans and a bit of practical information, and over to you as well for any questions. Please do make the most. We've got 10 minutes. Please do write any questions at all or any observations and comments. There's a really interesting discussion going on in the chat that I see that I'm really enjoying. So please keep the questions, keep the comments coming. Let me tell you a little bit about how the event will unfold, some of the practicalities, and then we'll see if there's anything that we need to answer. Thanks again, George. So the program highlights, let me tell you a bit about how it actually looks. It starts after lunch on the 14th, Sunday, the 14th of January, and we'll have a very, we'll have a welcome session. One key feature of Sunday, which is really important, is that on Sunday we'll hear from students. The student voice is always part of the industry forum. I know many of us are surrounded by students all the time, but really giving them the opportunity, the week ahead of the industry forum, they will work on a challenge related to sustainability, and they're going to present some thoughts back to us as part of that Sunday opening session. And then we'll have a welcome reception and of course some inspirational sessions and a panel dedicated to AI on the Monday. And then from Monday afternoon, we'll go into the design workshop mode. This means that we'll talk about a number of different themes that will have been identified by corporate partners and education partners in advance and by our advisory board, and we'll work in groups and as I said, in a plenary format, so we all get to hear each other's ideas and thoughts on around 8 different topics, which all address our 4 key themes, which we'll share. And then over the course of the next day, working together in groups with some social activities, some visits, and the presentations in the morning on Wednesday, the 17th, so that everybody can hear what your group worked on, the ideas that you came up with, and think also together as a community, what do we take from this? How do we move some of these things forwards? And so that's the structure of the event. And there are some key points there. We'll have a booklet that we'll publish in advance, which is all about pioneering practice. So examples from all of the delegates who would like to share something about their industry, their workplace or their university, something that you've done that you would like to share. There's a workshop on Sunday morning, really bringing together more of the community of Asian deans, which is of course open to everybody who's there, but the main activity will start after lunch. Of course, we'll have a showcase on innovation in higher education alongside the UNESCO Centre, which is where the conference actually takes place. It's a fantastic venue. I mentioned the student voice and of course dinner and a lot of networking opportunities, including, as I said, one with Shenzhen's startup community, which I'm really excited about. So that's how the program will unfold. Of course, there's time to do a bit of work and get online if you need to be, and we'll give you some tips on the different apps and the different tools that you can use when your typical apps are not the ones that work in China. And that's also the value of going in advance and working with the team at SUSTEC to make sure that that side of things runs smoothly as well. For example, how to set up a VPN if that's what you'll need in order to be able to operate with your devices and stay in touch with colleagues when you're on the spot. The other practicalities that we might take a quick look at are just, of course, you need to register. There are only 120 places. They are already filling. So don't wait too long. Jump on the link that we'll share at the end, register, and by the 24th of November, because that's when I think we'll be at capacity and we will close the registration pages. Of course, it's also early to make sure that everybody who needs a visa can get one. And in fact, as you fill the registration form, at the same time you're filling the information that you need for the visa letter that goes automatically to the university supplies the letter. It's very quick, but don't wait too long because we know that visa processing can take time. And of course, on the website, there's ample information about hotel and travel. We have picked 3 key hotels which are very close to the university, walking distance in 2 of the cases, also to create that community feel and be able to have everybody on the spot. So I think at this point what we can do is share the link that will enable you to get to the registration page, just to make sure that you've got that both on the screen and in the chat. But I would love to hear from some of the audience about any observations or any questions that you've got, either practical or about the theme and program. So over to you. And Christian, I don't know if you would like to give anybody the mic or simply ask people to write in the chat.
Yeah, we can, if anybody wants to chat, they can put on the chat. If they want to talk, they can just raise their hand and we'll let them talk. Okay, we got a few minutes left and before we get this over to Hans to wind it up.
Great. Thank you very much. Promise, it's great to see you here. Maybe you can. I know that you're now. Promise was involved in one of our events, actually, where the presentation was shared back with the industry forum. Maybe somebody from your company in Nigeria will be able to join us. While we're looking for questions, if anybody would like to ask anything, I wonder whether we could also share the slide with the themes, because we have identified 4 themes that we've actually our core themes that we've worked with for a certain amount of time now, and I think it could be useful to share that slide that shows the themes. So these 4 themes were developed with a lot of work from one of our team, Monica Collins, who's also a researcher at the Institut Mines Telecom in Paris, and also with the support of the advisory board, who we worked with last year, in particular, Yanis Yortsis, I'd like to say, at University of Southern California, and Jen Bradford, who's at Siemens. And together we looked at everything that had been covered in the previous events, in particular, all of the ideas and all of the design group discussions and what had been addressed. And we were able to group them really into 4 key areas. And these also match with the 4 kind of strategic, let's call them strategic pillars, that I know that Yanis and other deans also look for the management of their institution's skills and talent, both in terms of the talent that graduates, but also the talent in your institution, educational transformation, discovery and innovation, and societal impact. So the challenges that we'll address and the speakers of the interactive workshops and the panels that we have will really be covering these 4 key themes.
So given that we don't have any more comments and so on, and we're running out of time, I think you and your team have done a fantastic job of giving the overview and the discussion and really getting people excited about wanting to come. And this is great. So let's let Hans in and say a few parting words. Come on in,
Thank
Hans.
you. Thank you very much. This is indeed, Kirsten, thank you very much. An inspiring session. The 60 minutes went very, very rapidly. And I know we could have added another 15 minutes on that. But as you know, this series of webinars is both done in partnership with my dear friend and colleague and partner Krishna, and we're almost every Wednesday per se. So I just want to take a minute to just give, we have participating today some IFES and GDC members, but also some new ones, new colleagues that I've not had the pleasure of meeting yet. I just wanted to mention we'll be going this week, as a matter of fact, to Monterrey in Mexico, where we're working with that leading university of our global conference, the Global GEDC Conference, together with IFES, the WEF, in close collaboration with industry globally. So I just want to let you be aware of that. And I know some of you who are here are joining us and starting next week. And an important part of that, as Kirsten said, also in terms of our GDC Industry Forum, is the engagement not only of deans. We have faculty, industry, of course, and students. Students are very much important of our global community. I just wanted to mention that. The other thing I just wanted to mention, Rovani, your comment about the importance of women work. And just as an update to the IFES GDC community who is here today, we are now working on our 5th volume of Rising to the Top, written by women engineering leaders globally. And the 5th one will focus on the MENA Arab world and Southeast Asia. We are making progress and hope to be publishing this very, very soon. I just wanted to let you be aware of that. And finally, I'm working very closely our first regional IFES GDC conference in Western Balkans with the leadership of several countries. And we have in late November in Belgrade, Serbia, an elite leadership conference there, bringing together that particular community of Europe. Of course, internationally, beyond the Western Balkan is welcome, but it'll be focusing this leadership conference. And any of you are interested to have information about our Monterrey conference beginning next week and this one, please contact with us. So with all of that, peace be with you, and we deeply thank and appreciate your participation today. All the very best to you.
All the best to everybody.
Thank you.
Be happy,
Thank you.
be peaceful, be healthy. Okay, take care. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, Hans and Krishna. Thanks so much for your support.
Thank you.
And hosting us. Thank you,
you
everyone,
very
for
much.
joining.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to the speakers.
Bye-bye,
Good to
everybody.
see you all.